Hey up, Internet, and welcome to Black Sofa. And this is part two of my new introducing series, where I introduce up and coming new YouTubers um, who um, who have only just started and are still less than 100 subs. Last time I spoke to Strawman Atheist, and this time I'm speaking to Chess Piercy.
Mhm.
So why don't you introduce yourself and talk a bit about your channel?
Um, Hi. So my it's kind of interesting because I'm not really one that likes to talk about myself too much. My channel has been basically whatever I've been feeling like. It I'll come up with any random idea. Most recently has been video about sex and anything involving sex.
Okay.
And I thought I'd take advantage of that now because if I do try to hit 1,000, I know I can't talk about that and get paid.
Okay, fair enough. Um, um, you may have heard the phrase "No sex, please. We're British," and and I must admit I was a bit nervous about this interview because I seem to be talking to a girl with a ball gag in her mouth.
Yes, yes. I was actually debating on switching that one to the one where it's a woman holding a dog bone in her mouth, but I feel like that one would have been worse, actually.
Oh, um, so what's the idea behind that? Behind your avatar? Well,
Um, I've been recently doing drawings that are closer to BDSM, and I find those extremely enjoyable. So when I go to draw those, um, if I really like one, I know my avatar on Twitter is of a girl that's in a chain and she's more kind of enjoying the chain as
yeah,
she
I've
is
seen that one.
touching it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's to play with that. It's to play with all like the different types of fetishes.
Okay. Um, what made you decide to start your channel?
Um, I'm I'm currently unemployed and like what was it, the second week of unemployment after kind of being depressed about it. Um, my Wonder Lady was like, be on my channel. And I'm like, okay. And then after seeing her do that, I had a lot of fun. So I decided, hey, maybe I'll make a couple videos, especially ones where I keep seeing like crazy stuff in the news. And I've just been kind of rolling with that since.
Yeah. I saw your video on where the hell is Melania? I thought that was really interesting.
She like made a reappearance, but I like the thought that she just went insane from Trump and decided to just disappear.
Yeah,
It would be like the best scandal ever, but no.
yeah. She probably just needed a rest.
Right. Oh yeah. Um, I do have like I guess a quick question. So you said you're a little nervous. Is it because of the sexual stuff I talk about?
Um, I must admit I've lived a bit of a sheltered life, I guess. Um, so, but it's it's okay. We'll get there together, I'm sure, um,
Okay.
so to speak. Um, which brings us on to my next question. Why? I mean, I think I originally worded it. Why do you talk about sex so much? But I think a better question would be why is sex education so important?
Um, because you can avoid those lovely mistakes that I made. I personally have always been someone that's sexual. I always I wanted to lose my virginity off the bat. I lost it when I was 14. And when I turned 18, that was my biggest thing, was I could fuck anyone I want. I'm 18, I could do what I want. So, mind you, what I did was the incorrect thing. I went online, I went to Color Space, and I basically talked to the first couple guys. And especially after being on Dawn's channel, I do realize that that was not the best move. I am one of the more lucky ones that didn't get badly hurt, but there are those cases. And it's more for safety for everyone. I don't want someone to make the same mistake I did.
Yeah, that's that's really good. And, that's a really good reason. And you're right. It's important. People need to be clued up about these things.
Right. And as I said, I've made that mistake. I don't want everyone to make that mistake. And there's also the disillusion of sex. I know for me, my first time was disappointing, and I've learning how to overcome certain things, and also learning what gets you going and being able to communicate that with your partner is very important.
Yeah. So, what? I mean, of course, I know what BDSM is. I know all about it. I mean, I'm the BDSM master. But for those for those people who may not be as clued up as we are, can you explain what BDSM is?
It means a bunch of things. There's the big one is, what is it? Bondage, domination, submissive, master. There's also using S and M for sadist, masochist. Okay. BDSM is a really weird area because I know when I first tried it, I thought it was going to be the best sex ever, and it wasn't. Right. And I thought it would be something that would give you like a harder orgasm or something, and it wasn't. But it's also something you can do if it helps kind of get you into the imagination and the enjoyment. It can be an enhancer, but it's not something just to rely on.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, I think so. How? And again, I'm asking, hashtag asking for a friend. If you wanted to, broach the subject with your spouse or partner, you wanted to try something new, something that perhaps your spouse, either you hadn't tried before, or your partner hadn't tried before. How would you recommend you would go about that?
I'm pretty blunt. I'll be frankly honest, and that's probably at least my area. The current guy I am with is extremely vanilla. He's extremely shy, and he has had one other partner besides me. And he's a good example of trying to break the norm for him, because I've had 50 plus sex partners. I have done it all. Very few things in between. So when I tell him about things, it has to be through trial and error, and it also has to be extremely communicated. Like, if you think, like, when I'm in the bedroom, I'm tied up and he's like commanding me, it's not that. I do giggle at him quite a lot. I feel bad for how much I've laughed at him, actually, which isn't really fair to him. But I've had to talk to him multiple times, and even for a little while in the recent, I wasn't getting off during sex. And it's good to not hold that in, because if you do, you're just going to go off on them one day, and it's not fair to either sides. I don't know if you saw the video where I talked about orgasms.
No, I didn't actually. Maybe I should.
The woman I talked about in that story, is someone I know who she only got off twice with her husband in 6 years. She never talked to him. She never let him know. And she ended up leaving him. And to this day, I'm positive he still does not know.
Oh dear. I am. I remember because I used to be a Christian, and me and my missus, we had Christian premarital counselling, and with our church, and our pastor gave us a book called The Act of Marriage, and he suggested that we read it before we both read it and talked through it before we got married, and it was co-written by I think his name was Tim LaHaye, but some people watching may know that name because he went on to write the Left Behind series. And but anyway, he in just about every chapter he seemed to say that unless you bring your wife to orgasm, she's going to get frustrated. She's going to be resentful towards you, and eventually she'll leave you.
Wait, did I hear that right? You said if you brought her to orgasm?
Sorry?
Or if you did you say she'll get frustrated if you bring her to orgasm?
Yeah,
if you don't bring her?
Failed, if you consistently failed to do so. And I mean, he didn't say that in those exact words, but that was kind of the message I got from reading, that, and it put me under a lot of pressure. I felt, a lot of pressure to bring my wife to orgasm. Do you think men generally feel, pressurized to bring their partners to orgasm, or do you think women do as feel pressurized as well?
Yes, and both. My big thing is talking to them. For example, I am a woman who loves giving oral sex. I love giving head. And one of the examples I like to give with people is to ask certain things off the bat. And it's depending on what genre. So if you're talking to a woman, you want to ask, well, what gets you off when you masturbate? Are there any toys you like? What areas are more sensitive?
Yeah.
And even ask her to show you. Like if she can take a toy and you see what does it for her, you can get a better idea on how to get her off. When I go in for like oral sex, I immediately talk to the guy. Do you like having your balls sucked? And do you like having the hand involved or not? And those seems to be the two common ones for me where it's a yes or no.
Okay. I think that's a problem that some maybe I don't know, maybe even a lot of men, especially Christian men. I don't know what it's like in the US, but certainly in the UK, there's a lot of sexual repression, I think, and the people, the guys I used to speak to were, but rather, they were, shy. They were kind of backwards at coming forwards. Because we, and I think it's a big problem in the church, at least here in the UK. Women, men and don't talk about this, not they're shy about even talking about it. It's a taboo subject. What do you think? What do you think about that?
Um, it doesn't help to shy away from it. That's for sure. You end up being resentful if you shy away from it.
Mm.
But the church itself has always had issues, anywhere from circumcision for like genital mutilation to anything like that. They've always found it to be AKA sinful, in which to me I think is a bullshit excuse.
Yeah.
And being able to talk to someone about it is important. Even if it's a friend, even if it's a family member, it's important to be able to talk about, because if you don't, you are at higher risk for STDs. I have the example of my cousin on my dad's side. She was 16 and pregnant, and it's because her mother thought the Bible was birth control.
Oh, right. Yeah.
It doesn't.
Sorry, go
And
on.
the worst thing about it is her mother also was a 16 and pregnant person. So for
Mm.
her to not even like realize her own mistake and be like, okay, kids are gonna fuck, that's a reality. Maybe you should tell her off the bat, here's condoms, we can go get birth control, it's okay. But no, she just had her go to Bible study once a week and thought that would fix it.
Oh, that's terrible, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And so then there needs to be there needs to be a lot more sex education in schools. I think, and I'm glad that my daughters go to a school where they teach sex education from from year 5.
Mm.
And but they just teach the basics, and they teach it in in terms of you know uh, love and relationships, and that, and so, because I really think it's important. Um, anyway.
I will say, I still think it's good that we talk about in schools, but we also need parents to be responsible.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, you're right, actually. I was going to. I was going to say that. But my dad just came to my bedroom one day when I was about 14 years old and said, here's a book. Have a read of that. And it was a 1970s publication called, I think it was called The Joy of Sex or something like that.
Hmm.
And that was it. That was the father and son talk. But so yeah, I think you're right. It's important that parents talk to their children.
I know it's kind of awkward. It's weird because even like looking back at my childhood, my mother, as sexual as she is, and the shit I have found on her computer when I fixed it, and all those things, she never talked to me. And I think there is that like nervousness for a parent to be able to talk to their kid and when it's appropriate. But the sooner you do it, the less you're at risk.
Yeah.
I'm not saying talk to them when they're 2 years old. I would say if you have any sense that they're starting puberty, especially talk to them.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I my eldest daughter recently had sex ed, um, and she started asking me questions about it, and that gave me the confidence to be able to have the conversation with her, because I knew that she had been learning about it at school, and because she felt confident enough to talk to me about it, I felt confident enough to answer her questions. So and we had a constructive talk about it.
And that's good. And I'm also really impressed that so you have a good enough relation with your like daughter where she can come to you even to ask something like that.
Yeah, yeah. Cause I think that could be because I was the stay-at-home dad.
Mm.
My wife is a nurse, and she's the one who um who has always been the the one going to work, and I just so I kind of fell into the stay-at-home parent role. So I
Mm.
think she kind of relates to me um quite well because of that. And so and I'm really glad of that, actually. um so anyway, what what do you hope to achieve with your channel? What's
And it's kind of weird because I am normally one that plans like 15 steps ahead, but for this, I just been kind of going with the flow. Like nothing's consistent at the moment. Whatever comes to mind, and I'm kind of happy with that because it's something new every time.
Yeah. What apart from you like to talk about sex a lot on your channel, but what else do you you've touched on
Uh,
politics, but what else do you talk about?
Today, before coming on, I was with Miss Snarky and Anti-Ordinary and Wonder Lady, and we talked about comparing Trump to the seven deadly sins. And that was a lot of fun. And that was, he's not like it, he's a hard subject to fit into that, but that was a lot of fun. I've touched on guns and the reality behind them a little bit, and I've talked about the news. Uh, when it comes to my like politics, I'm pretty straightforward. Um, yeah.
What are your politics, if you don't mind me asking?
Uh, Technically Democrat, but I'm one of those believers that we are not all just one color, and to choose a side is kind of faulty, even though I could never vote for anyone on the Republican side for except for those rare ones that are a bit more liberal and they're rare to come by.
Yeah. I'm more left leaning in my politics. Um, I don't know if you do you follow British politics?
Somewhat. I used to watch a lot of good news, and that was the closest I got to politics in Britain.
Oh, right. Because um, I, I had almost given up on politics until this guy called Jeremy Corbyn took over the Labour Party,
Oh.
and because he is he's left leaning, he's socialist, and I feel he's taken the Labour Party back to where it should be, on the left, for the workers.
Right.
That's where the term Labour come from. It was for the workers originally, and but then Tony Blair took it more towards the centre, more neoliberal, and it got to the stage where the Labour Party and the Conservative Party, they could have merged and become one party, and because you could hardly tell them apart. But now, under Jeremy Corbyn, we've got a real opposition. You can tell the two parties apart. So it's kind of exciting in British
Nice.
politics at the moment. But anyway, I'm going off on a tangent here.
You're good. No worries. No, that's really good. I don't know. I'm weird because while back, I watched, what is it? Adam Ruins Everything on a special he did right before the election. And it's
Oh,
rare, but have you seen that?
no, no, I haven't actually.
He talked about both parties for like the Democrat and the Republican. And the thing that was kind of interesting was long before I was born, there was a time where both parties worked together. Both parties, there was a thing known as a Republican liberal and a Democrat conservative. And if you look at politics today, that's not the case. It's basically red versus blue. And I thought it was kind of interesting to look at this. And his whole notion was to not try to be enemies with each other, try to work together, or else it's just going to be red versus blue forever.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be that. It should be for the people.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, and for here in the UK for years, decades even, it was red versus blue, the Labour Party versus the Conservatives. But I think it's opened up a lot now in recent years. We've got the Lib Dems, the Green Party, and we've got some. Unfortunately, we've got some nationalistic parties as well. But I think they're, in the minor, they're a very small minority though, so they don't really count. But it's an interesting time in British politics now.
I'm about to hear that. I know you guys have had like a lot of drama recently.
Here in the UK?
Yes.
Over Brexit.
Yeah.
What do you know about that?
Okay, I shouldn't say Brexit. The one I know about was you guys leaving. You weren't leaving the UN, was it?
No, the EU.
EU. That one was a pretty big deal.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It still is. And what happened was, David Cameron, our former prime minister, I think he wanted to appease his backbenchers, who were critical of the EU, but also there's a party called the UK Independence Party who were gaining ground, and their whole platform was Britain leaving the EU. So in order to appease the people who were voting for UKIP, I think he said, okay, if you vote for us, we'll hold a referendum on it. Yes or no? Do you want to stay in the EU or do you want to leave? And guess what? The people voted to leave. And the Conservatives just, they didn't have a plan. They didn't have a Brexit strategy at all. And so they're making a hash of it. It's a complete disaster. It's a complete mess.
Right.
And so there are people campaigning for another referendum on the terms of Brexit. Once we know the full terms of the deal that we get for leaving the EU, we want to know. There are a lot of people who are saying, okay, we want then to have another referendum on that deal, on the deal that's offered for us. Well, when we actually leave. Anyway, that's the mess that's happening here in the UK.
What's your thought on Boris Johnson?
Oh God.
I was curious because, again, good news makes him sound like this hilarious, interesting person, but I don't know how he is actually politics-wise.
The thing is, he portrays himself as this bumbling buffoon, but he's actually very shrewd politician. He's actually very clever, and I think he's playing a long game. He's got his eyes on the top job, definitely. and but he's very right wing.
Mm.
Oh, there he is.
People just wondering. As I said, like this guy on Good News was always kind of entertaining, especially with his hairstyles of like the day.
Yeah, should I? Can I? Yeah, present it. If I present, yeah. So now everyone can see. Yeah, this crazy guy. Yeah, he presents himself as a clown, but I think I think his views are quite dangerous. If you look at his voting record,
Mm.
he and you know really I think it would be a disaster for Britain if he ever becomes prime minister.
Ah.
I really do. Yeah.
Oh, I was just, and I don't know if he's like more, as he said, he does kind of display himself as a clown, and that's why I guess he ended up on the show Good News, because you have a lot to work with him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
but I think he's quite dangerous. So I was wondering, who are your main influences here on YouTube?
Currently, it's Wonder Lady, but if you were to talk about anyone that got me more towards atheism, it would have been anywhere between T.J. Kirk, aka the Amazing Atheist, Jacqueline Glenn, or Mr. Repsion. Even though over time I've kind of like stopped watching them altogether, but those were the first.
Yeah, I think for me, I think one of the T.J. Kirk was definitely one of the first I started watching, but I think I've gone off him because I think he can come across as arrogant and a bit condescending. I don't know. What's your take on him?
I liked his earlier stuff. I know he does play a role.
Yeah.
That's like one thing I think a lot of people forget is especially when you get more of those views, not a lot of them are their true selves. They are playing a role.
Yeah.
But with his personality, he seems to me, the thing that why I stopped watching him is he become more apathetic towards everything.
Yeah.
And that just kind of what lost my interest.
Yeah. Who do you like? I mean, you mentioned Wonder Lady. I mean, who do you like these days?
Currently, I haven't actually been watching many YouTube videos. I've been like doing stuff constantly. My big people I've been watching lately is Wonder Lady, who I talk to on a regular basis. I watch Dawn's stuff quite often. And I try to keep up with more live streams because if I can get more active in live streams, it's kind of sees and learns from it.
Yeah.
But is that I haven't really been watching many YouTube videos lately that are involved around that type of thing.
Okay.
I occasionally enjoy a drama video. Like, do you know about Mr. Onision?
Oh, I've heard of him. Yeah. But his reputation precedes him.
Oh yeah, no, he's entertaining. I like the drama around it. I will never actually watch his videos. I will watch everyone's reaction of his videos.
Yeah, didn't Jacqueline have a lot of drama with him recently?
Oh yeah, I think she still does.
Yeah, I thought I thought they buried the hatchet.
I think so. I think you're right. I think they did actually end it. I know, especially after she broke up with her boyfriend. Um,
Social repose.
yeah, they kind of broke apart on that, and finally actually discussed it like sensible human beings.
Right. Yeah. Which is which is good. It's good to to discuss these things properly, without being emotionally, involved in it. Yeah. And so yeah, but like you, I haven't seen any of his videos. I've seen clips, obviously, on other people when other people have been talking about him, and I I don't like his views on mental health. I think he's very um, ignorant when it comes to you know to mental health issues.
Oh yeah. I
And
don't know. I agree. I don't know. He's a drama queen. That's really all it is.
yeah, yeah. Um, so, is, is there anything you'd like to ask me?
Sure. So I am curious. Why did you want to interview me?
Um, well, that's a good question. Um, to well, for, well, for, well, firstly, to learn, um, more about the sex, more about sex, and because like I said, I don't know how, I've lived, a bit of, I guess I've had a social, um, can't even get the words out, but I guess I've lived a sheltered existence when it's come to that
Right.
side of things, and I wanted to learn a bit more about it. And I heard you. I've been I watched a few of your videos, and I saw your interview with Unholy Mole, and I think I saw you for a bit on Don's channel as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I like your frankness about it. I like the fact that you're confident enough to talk so openly about it. And so I thought I'd have you on to kind of to pick your brains a bit, I guess, and learn from you.
Okay. Yeah, no, I was kind of curious, that's all. What else is there? Um, was there any specific thing you wanted to know, like in a specific genre or area of kink?
Um, yeah, well, um,
And
I
you don't have to be shy.
well, I
As I
mean,
said, I'm blunt, so.
well, I mean, just how I was, so I was thinking sometimes I've been tempted to say to my missus, why don't you try strangling me a bit? But I don't know how she'll take it because
Uh,
because she's had a quite strict Christian upbringing.
is she an atheist too?
No, she's still very devout. Um,
Oh, interesting. Okay.
yeah, and she's still very. I mean, I think she's a bit more liberal than she was when we first met, but she's still quite devout in her faith.
I mean, with that, if you wanted, I'd say the first thing is to look up on how to do it properly. With strangulation, and if someone quotes me wrong, you want to not constrict airflow, you want to constrict blood flow.
Okay, yeah,
And definitely bring that up. If she's a nurse, it should be a little easier with that. But also just be straight up and talk to her and tell her, hey, it's something I want to try. I mean, trying something is never going to hurt anything. If you guys look it up, do it properly. And even even ask her if she wants to try something that maybe isn't in your normal comfort zone.
Yeah.
It's good to compromise in those areas.
Yeah. I think you're right, definitely. And being open about it is going to help, isn't it?
Oh yeah, if you hold those feelings in, they don't. You're right. It's going to get irritating pretty quick.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad I've been able to. I've never said that out loud before, actually. So thanks for helping me to open up about that. I think we've been chatting for almost 45 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've come to the end of the questions that I prepared. So let's open it up to the people watching in the chat. Is there anyone who? We've got Mrs. Snarky. We've got Notjar Witness. They're watching. I think that seems to be it. But does it?
Yeah.
It says there are 6 people watching, but they're not all chatting. That's probably more like. Does anyone have any questions for Chess? While we've got her here.
While we're waiting for them, I'm going to share my screen again.
Okay.
So, and I'll send you the link here in a moment. Wait, no, share. Yes. Okay. So if you were to talk to your wife about it, you would look for to restrict blood flow.
Yeah.
Instead of actual oxygen. And I think that's where a lot of people get that wrong. When they think choking, you think you're restricting the ability to breathe, and it's not.
Okay.
And I will send that. Well, actually, let me stop sharing.
Wow, that is freaky.
I actually think I will do it. It is freaky, isn't it?
Yeah.
I know it can actually crash your computer if you don't have a decent computer. Okay. Yeah. Paste. Okay. So I'll send that. And I'll maybe actually do a proper tweet of it too. But yeah, if you ever... And as I said, if she agrees to it, definitely bring up and talk about compromises.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have sex questions or something I can even go look up real quick if you guys are curious on how to do it?
Let's have a look. What is a great way to bring up such an uncomfortable topic? Asks Mrs. Snarky.
Straight up, but personally, I just go up and tell my significant other if as I've said, like recently, he hasn't been very sexual with me, and I've been irritated at him about it. Instead of getting mad about it or yelling at him about it or kind of doing the mean, like anything in those regards, I just straight up tell him, like, I want to get off, I want to do these things. And he is extremely vanilla. So for someone that is completely vanilla to my personality, I do compromises for him. Like, I will maybe take a shower with him. I might rub his back. I might make out with him, which all those are kind of boring for me. In exchange, he will tie me up. He'll use toys on me. He'll do that thing.
All right. Mrs. Snarky just commented, yeah, sometimes it's kind of hot when your lover just tells you exactly what they want, in my opinion, anyway.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It makes it easy because I don't expect people to be psychic.
No, exactly. It reminds me of a stand-up comedian I I saw once called David Baddiel. He was talking about sex, and he tells a story of when his girlfriend was asking him, tell me what you want, tell me what you want. So he literally told her sausages. Yeah, it's the way I delivered it. Probably, yeah. He delivered that that much better than I did. But yeah, I think you're right. It's you need to be straight up with each other. You need to be honest and open with each other.
I kind of love how you did bring up comedy or comedians, because I've seen so many, specifically male comedians, bring up the lack of communication with women. And after listening to a bunch of those, like there was what's his name? He had the show Mind of Mencia. That was his first name though, and he had a good joke where he went on about like, why is it that women will tell their gay friends what they like, but not the guy they're with? We're not going to judge you. And he goes on to do this crazy detail of like a woman like strangling him, tying him up, hooking a car battery to him, and then like at the brink of orgasm, she'll shove her fist up his ass. And his only comment was like, "You crazy bitch, you better be able to keep a secret." And it's true. Like, it goes both ways. If you don't really talk about it, and that's also a maturity level. If someone can't handle talking about it, they might not be mature enough to handle it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Years ago, I had a friend who tragically died because he was trying out this thing called I can't remember what it's called, but it's where you're hanging yourself whilst you're masturbating. And just
erotic asphyxiation.
Yeah, yes, I think you're supposed to release the noose just as you ejaculate, or something like that. But he ended up killing himself, and a few celebrities. The lead singer of In Excess died that way as well. And what are your views on that?
With that, you're being very you're playing with fire with that. You need to actually, if you want to do something like that, if that's something that gets you off, you need to talk to or have a partner. I think that's the key thing, because you're right, there's no one there. There's no one to undo the noose when it's too late.
Yeah.
So if you're going to play with that, it's definitely smart to have a significant other there. And as I said, they can do the choking and they can stop when you need to stop. And that's where like safe words come in. You can't have a safe word and the rope will stop. It is extremely dangerous.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I mean, if you want to do it, I mean, I would just say get another person involved so you don't have to risk your life at any point.
Yeah, that is very sensible. Yeah, definitely. I'll see if there's any more. Not Jar Witness is saying you shouldn't do it by yourself, basically.
Yeah.
Oh, Mrs. Snarky. Yeah, autoerotic asphyxiation. Yeah, like David Carradine. I don't know who that is, but he's obviously someone who's done it. I don't think there's any more questions. So I'll briefly sell us your channel
uh,
to wrap things up.
I will try. Basically, if you want to hear me talk about some statistics, if you want to hear me talk about my, I guess, personal sex life, or at least my past, if you are up for my politics, basically come to my channel. I'm pretty open and I'm pretty inviting, and I give away my information on my Twitter and on my or not my Twitter, on my channel, on my videos. If anyone ever wanted to contact me with questions, if they don't even feel comfortable leaving a comment, I have all my social medias, including email, if you want it to be more private.
Okay, yeah, that's good.
Especially, as I said, if someone does not feel comfortable with letting like the public know that, let's say they get turned on by like urine play or something, I can like talk to you about it. As I said, I've basically done everything with very few things in between, and I can tell you my experiences and what I've learned from it.
Brilliant. Yeah, so definitely, if you want to learn about these things, and you subscribe, definitely. And well, thank you, Jess, for coming on my channel and chatting with me. It's been really eye-opening. I've learned a lot, actually.
I'm
And
extremely grateful. I will say that. Thank you so much.
yeah, you're welcome, definitely.
Miss Snarky just asked what my favorite kink is.
Okay.
Truthfully, favorite kink is probably what Black Sofa here wants to try. I do have my boyfriend practice choking on me during sex, especially when it's close towards the end.
Yeah. Wow.
And for me, it's more of the pain factor. It's not a lot of pain. For me, that's what gets me going.
Okay.
If done correctly, everything feels great, but perfect sex is hard to come by in my expertise. So
Yeah. That's yeah. Anyway, yeah, it's been awesome, chatting with you. And if you've liked this video, give it a thumbs up, and do head over to Chess's channel and subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss any of her videos. Okay, and thanks for watching.
bye.